Listen, hello to and welcome to Make Motherwell, Bagpipes to Banjos, a very, very, very special one. Before I get started, just to let everyone know, I do, at this moment in time, I have coronavirus. It's a little bit of a different show tonight. However, it's a special one. I have with me tonight music royalty, Mr. Vaylor Trucks. Welcome to the show, my man.
Greetings, salutations, people of Earth.
It is awesome and so awesome to have you. I'm a big fan from Yeti Trio. If anyone doesn't know who Vaylor Trucks is, he is the guitarist, the main draw of the Yeti Trio for me anyway. But of course, he wouldn't be caught dead saying that. On this show, real quick, before I get started with anything, obviously Corona and the pandemic's been a little crazy, but where can I find you? Where can I see your music? Where can I hear your music? What's going on? Where are you playing? All that good stuff.
Well, I'm not playing anywhere out right now. But if you want to find the stuff that I'm doing or hear the stuff that I've done, the easiest way is just VaylorTrucks.com. And also, if you can spell my first name, Vaylor, Vaylor, that's my handle on all the socials. So it's a nice thing about having an unusual first name.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty crazy when you gave me your email. I was like, damn, that's awesome. I'm Michael, man. Like, you can't – it's all been done. It's all been taken.
Yeah.
So, and that's – so, again, music royalty, you are phenomenally talented.
Oh, that's very kind.
I don't think it's – I think it's facts. That's all I spit on this show, spit facts. But it's – I really is, especially in some of the places that I've seen you, is – I don't know. It's like it's rude, right? You're cutting everybody's conversation off because everyone's stopping and going, "What in the hell?" I think you're amazingly talented. I think people should check out VaylorTrucks.com and check out all that social for Vaylor. And hopefully, when this pandemic is gone and everyone's a little better and cooler about it, we can see you playing at other places. So. You know, the show, it's kind of got its own little start, its own little pattern on how we start. And it usually it's interesting to hear where people started, how people got in, where the influences came from. Yours are maybe a little different and a little more, I don't know, a little more interesting to some people than most. But where did it start for you, Vaylor? Where did you first learn to pick up a guitar? When did you first go, I want to do this?
Okay, so all right, this is a long podcast. We can go out.
Do whenever you want.
Obviously, I grew up with music. You know, obviously, there was a music influence in my life from the very earliest. You know, I had a drum set, which actually I still own, when I was 2 years old. I got it for Christmas in 1972. And it's a really nice, for real, vintage Camco drum set. And, you know, so I tried drums for a while, but I didn't stick to it because I was 2 years old. I bounced around a bunch of instruments. I played saxophone in junior high. I took piano lessons. I tried harmonica for a minute. But my mom and dad separated when I was 3. We moved out of Macon to Jacksonville, Florida, and my mom remarried. And the man that she married was a guitarist. He was marginally successful at it. He was a member. Do you remember the remake in the 80s of Everlasting Love by Rachel Sweet and Rex Smith? Does that ring a bell to you at all?
I can't do it.
Okay.
No.
Well, no, that's fine.
I wish I did.
Well, he was part of Rachel Sweet's band. And he had some other kind of regional bands as well. But so, you know, he toured with Bob Seger and so I learned my first couple of guitar chords for him. But after that, I was largely self-taught. But that's why guitar, because there was guitar in the house from him. Yeah.
But so you bounced around a lot. It's insane to me. It's self-taught. How old were you when you started on the guitar anyway? You've been playing
I was about 12.
This and this. So 12 years old, you started on the guitar. So you kind of play that through junior high and whatnot to when you get into performing?
Oh, well, here's the thing. From the age of about 6 until the time that I graduated high school, we moved a lot. I lived in Jacksonville and Daytona Beach and Ormond Beach and Lake Placid and Wauchula for most of that, and Sebring and Avon Park, and then I moved to Tallahassee to go to college, and we lived in Nashville for 4 years, so all over the Southeast, largely in Florida. But for my high school years, I was in a very small town in Central Florida called Wauchula, which is the county seat of Hardee County. It's about 90 miles south of Orlando and about an hour east of Tampa, right in the middle of the orange groves and the swamps. We were in a dry county. There was no opportunity to perform live. So for me, the opportunity to play was just hanging out with my friends who were also players. But it being the late 80s, so this, I graduated high school in 1988, so this would have been like 83 to 88 would be when I was playing all of this stuff. No one gave a shit about the Allman Brothers. Oh, I'm assuming we can go blue here.
Yeah.
So we were in the middle of new wave and hard rock, right? So what my friends were playing was Bon Jovi and Rat and Poison and Cinderella, and so that's the music that I had to learn. The Scorpions and Iron Maiden, those are the things that I was having to learn in order to play with my friends. I didn't have much of an interest in it, although I did enjoy Van Halen and I did buy Quiet Riot's Mental Health album, and I learned a lot of that. But that's so the first time I actually would perform. While I was still going to high school in Wauchula, my mom moved the family a county over to Sebring, and she was working at a golf resort over there. And the golf resort had a nightclub, and there would be little duo and trio acts that would come and play lounge jazz at the nightclub. And one dude there said, "Well, you should come and play with us." And so my first time playing on stage was at the Sun and Lakes Resort Golf Club, in Sebring, Florida.
And you're playing like Bon Jovi and stuff.
No. For that one, what did we end up playing? I think we ended up playing Ramblin' Man because they knew who my father was.
Okay.
But after that, I had a friend from Wauchula named Roger who had a little trio, and they would actually play some harder hard rock songs, but it was more classic rock oriented, the Stones and Thin Lizzy and stuff like that. And so I sat in with them a couple of times, but it wouldn't be until I started college, actually about a year or two into college in Tallahassee, that I had a band that was performing regularly at all of the little clubs around FSU. So.
And is that around the time you'd say that like you kind of found your sound, that you were a little more experimental, kind of?
Well, yes and no.
Path kind of jam stuff.
I always tried to push the band in that direction. I would say, let's play this Frank Zappa tune, let's play this Jeff Beck tune. But the other songwriter in the band was a guy named Pete Howenstein, and Pete was into Elton John and Billy Joel and Andrew Lloyd Webber and stuff like that. So I'm saying, let's play Scatterbrain from Blow by Blow, and he's saying, let's play Angry Young Man by Billy Joel. And so those are the covers we ended up doing with stuff like that. So yeah, I tried.
That's when drugs come into play.
Yeah. Yeah. So
yeah.
Well, I mean, what am I going to say? No, of course.
No, of course. But there's just a lot of pushing and pulling, and like you said, you're kind of you're pushing in that direction.
Yeah.
But again, that's kind of when you're finding it and you're trying to do it, and so that's
for sure. Yeah. No, I was definitely interested in trying to be seen as kind of a serious and dedicated and skillful musician, more than I was necessarily worried about, drunk FSU college students dancing to Sweet Home Alabama or something. So,
well, that kind of goes. That's kind of the next question is around that time you were at school. Were you going to school to be a musician, or
actually,
was it all
no.
music? Yeah.
No, I went to school for engineering, and I ended up graduating with a degree in physics.
Jesus Christ.
No, okay.
This is all you, man.
When I got to college, I was poor. Like I said, the Allman Brothers hadn't been playing forever. My dad was making a living by playing in a local jazz band in Tallahassee, and also by working at a music store. So as I'm trying to get myself through college, I kind of made the decision that, well, it's the difference between figure skating and baseball, right? In figure skating, like a music career, it doesn't matter how well you execute. It doesn't matter how well you do the thing. At the end of the day, your success or failure is based upon someone else judging your work. That's figure skating, right? Sure. Baseball, if you're out there playing baseball, you can say, this is how well I hit, this is how well I run, this is how well I field. Pay me based on that. So that was my thinking in getting a degree in which I could be baseball and not figure skating. Yeah. So that's why I went for a science degree and not for a music degree. Yeah.
But was it more of a fail-safe, more of a safety net, or was it always music that you wanted to pursue, or was there more of a, I definitely want to be an engineer, and then I get to play and then I really like this? Like, how did that kind of turn about where you kind of chose that path?
Well, yeah. So it's obviously music's always been a part of my life, but it hasn't been the only thing in my life. I was, the same year I got my guitar, I got my first computer in 1982. Right. And I really liked it. And I liked to program games. And I, just as much as I would hang out with friends and play music, I would hang out with my best friend and we would write games on computers. I like doing it. So that was always something that I wanted to pursue, was the sciences and technology. And I was fortunate enough that when I moved to Tallahassee and got a job, I ended up working for a company called Stereo Sales. And ostensibly, they sold stereo equipment, right? They sold home and car audio, and I ended up installing a lot of car stereos. But they also had a professional wing. And the professional wing was talented and prestigious enough that we ended up doing things like installing the sound system at Florida A&M University's football stadium. Okay. So I got very kind of on-the-job training and information about acoustical physics. So I went to Tallahassee to study electrical engineering, but I ended up leaving there and moving to Atlanta, ostensibly to get a degree at Georgia Tech. I ended up not being able to do that because there was a fire and I lost everything, but I did have a degree, a 4-year degree in physics at the end of it all, from a local college up here in Atlanta. So that the idea was I was going to get my graduate degree in acoustic physics, studying with Gene Petronas at Georgia Tech. That's what I wanted to do. I just didn't have the chance to do that. I ended up, in the workplace doing IT stuff. And so, yeah.
And so you just, it was gigs here and there, side project stuff.
Well, so
when did you make that path from like IT guy to fucking touring, killing it?
Well, I still am an IT guy, and that's what allows me to have the ability to play the weird music that I play, because I got a day gig that pays me well, and I get to work from home. But had my college band in Tallahassee, moved to Atlanta, and after being in Atlanta for about 3 or 4 years and not making any music worth noting at all, I started getting really aggressive with folks. Give me some names. I'm trying to put together a fusion band here. I'm trying to put together something that's really going to scare people. And it was Colonel Bruce Hampton that gave me Eric. Yes. He was the one that got me in touch with Eric Sanders, my drummer. And Eric and I have been, making music together now for 22 years. And the third member of the Yeti trio I found through my sister. My sister had lived in Atlanta before I did. she had made friends with a local band called the Grapes. The Grapes were a really fantastic jam band. They toured the country. They were in the same group of jam bands out of the South that were really hitting hard in the 90s. Aside from Colonel Bruce and the Fijian Mariners, there was the Grapes, there was Dawn of the Buffalo,
like
there was
Rescue Unit and stuff.
Yeah. Well, this would have been after the Aquarium Rescue Unit, or at least after Colonel Bruce and the Aquarium Rescue Unit. ARU still happened with Paul singing after Bruce left. So so it would have been concurrent to that. And
but you're talking like Blind Melon, like that time, like the 92, 93, 94 kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, exactly right. All the way up up through when I met Brooke Smith, who was playing with the Grapes in 1998.
Okay.
So yeah,
I'm way off.
Yeah. Oh no, not at all. No, not at all. In fact, I have a very strange connection to Blind Melon. In fact, like I said, my stepfather was a guitarist. He was originally from Columbus, Mississippi, and his stepbrother, or actually half brother, Sanford, was one of the original members of Blind Melon. Before he left to do other things, and they hired someone else, and they became famous without him. So yeah, I got a connection to them too.
You just connected everywhere in music. I mean, that's what we say about music royalty.
Yeah.
You start playing, you're doing your thing.
Mm-hmm.
How far does the name take you to get in the door, or like just to start anyway, or are you like busting your ass still playing pissy venues and things like that, or how does it get going?
Just like what I said before about the figure skating and baseball metaphor, I made a conscious effort not to call any of my bands the Vaylor Trucks Band. I did not want to lean on the name. I did not want to play slide guitar. Not that I can't. I just don't want to invite comparisons. Right?
You got to throw that in there, of course.
Well, I'm a student of the instrument. I try and learn everything there is to learn about it. I am uncomfortable playing it live because it's immediately the first thing that people are going to think.
Yeah.
That's changed recently, and we'll get to that in a bit.
Sure.
But no, so the whole idea was I wanted to play a style of music that not only spoke to me and I was passionate about, but was dissimilar enough from the Allman Brothers and from what my family was doing that it wouldn't immediately invite comparisons. Right. So that was my goal. So as a result, I played a lot of shitty venues. We've done a lot of the grimier places in the Southeast. So sure, yeah.
Well, all right. Let's take some time out to talk about that. What's
okay?
You don't have to name it if you don't want to.
No, I don't
tell
mind.
me about a shitty venue, a real shitty venue experience. Doesn't have to be the worst, but maybe the worst one you can think about.
Okay.
Just tell these aspiring musicians out there how fucking rough it sometimes gets.
Okay. We were hired one time to play a benefit for the spouses of incarcerated fathers.
Oh, great.
And it was obvious that they didn't know us. They didn't care about what kind of music we were playing. We showed up underneath a tent outside of a prison, and to a group of people that could not care less about what we were playing. The one and only time we got any reaction at all is that we did a version of Bob Dylan's "Like a Rolling Stone," and we put in a break at "When you ain't got nothing, you got nothing to lose," and people would turn around and say, "Shit, yeah!" And that was the only time that we got any reaction from this crowd at all. So,
oh no, where was? Oh, you don't have to say where it was, but Jesus, I can only imagine. They're just like, "Hey, shut the fuck up!"
Yeah,
like, just
they were just talking amongst themselves. We were just background noise.
If this motherfucker plays Allman Brothers one more goddamn time.
No, we didn't do that. But
you didn't.
No.
A benefit for incarcerated spouses.
Yeah. So the idea is if you're a mom at home alone with a kid and the father
the
is in
husband's in
prison.
jail.
Yeah. That's what we were a benefit for.
Did you get paid for that?
No, it was a benefit.
Well, that's what I heard.
Yeah.
And then you said that, and oh my god, did you get any? Like, did you get like a Coke out of that? Did you get like a fucking Mountain Dew or anything? I imagine they didn't take care of your shit.
I don't.
Who's working?
I don't even remember. I don't remember actually what the remunerations were. No, I think we were doing this as a favor for someone. Actually, I don't remember entirely.
What kind of band would you say would be ideal for that situation? Obviously wasn't.
Well, I don't know. I think that particular audience was probably looking more for R&B and hip hop than they were for a cover band. So, yeah.
Either way, Again, you're going to play shitty venues. People who are listening and want to do this for a living, that's the point. If you ain't got nothing, you got nothing to lose. But
exactly.
That's wonderful shit. Bob Dylan at a prison. You had to break that out. You just had to break Bob Dylan.
I do like Bob Dylan.
Where we okay, we'll throw that out there. Did you ever meet Bob Dylan?
Once. And it was just barely. So 1995 in Cleveland, they were going to finally open the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the actual museum itself.
Yeah.
Previous to that, acts had been inducted, but there was no actual museum. So in 1995 was the grand opening museum concert thing. And it just so happened that year, the three inductees were the Allman Brothers, Led Zeppelin, and Frank Zappa.
What a class.
Yeah. So I get the chance to go and not only see them be inducted to the Hall of Fame, but attend the concert. And so, we're walking towards, the tables in the backstage area. And it was myself and my wife at the time and my brother Seth and a few others. And as we're walking, I see Bob Dylan walking around with a little VHS camera, just kind of taking everything in. And he lands on Aretha Franklin and is trying to get her attention. And then my brother Seth just right in between them, completely oblivious to what's going on. And I had to say, Seth, move. Yeah. Bob, I'm sorry. So that's the one time I talked to Bob Dylan, is to apologize for my brother.
Who would you say is like one of the like top level holy shit guys that or gals that you've met on your travels as far as being places like that?
The one that
blew you away,
the one that I guess that I'm most impressed with was re-meeting Tom Dowd. And if you don't know who Tom Dowd was an engineer and producer at Atlantic Records, and he was responsible for everyone from Ray Charles and John Coltrane all the way through to the Allman Brothers and Leonard Skinner and a bunch of others. This is a guy who was in college during World War II studying physics, was drafted by the Defense Department to take part in the Manhattan Project. Jesus. And helped to build the atomic bomb. When he was finished, he wanted to go back to college to finish his degree, but the problem was none of the colleges knew the shit that he learned on the Manhattan Project, so no one had anything that could teach him.
He was a professor.
Yeah. So he said, well, let me find something else to do. And he got into the burgeoning industry of sound recording and engineering. And like I say, he is the reason why Atlantic Records sounds the way it sounds. The credits
That's
to Tom.
Wonderful.
Yeah. And so it's 1991 and the Allman Brothers are on the road again, supporting Seven Turns. And I decided I'm going to follow them for 4 or 5 shows in the South And when we get to Miami, which is where Tom lives, he's there. And he just walks right up to me and he says, Vaylor, it's good to see you again. He hadn't seen me since I was 2. And he knew who I was, shook my hand, and we had a great conversation about John Coltrane. And that just impressed the hell out of me. He was an amazing person. Yeah.
Oh, he's on that same brainwave as you, huh?
Well, that you flatter me greatly by saying that. Yeah.
I'm just saying that quiet genius. Go ahead. Please cut me off, please.
No. I was just gonna say the person I think that I was the most a fanboy around, like uncomfortably so, was 3 or 4 years ago. The Yeti Trio opened for the Aristocrats, and the Aristocrats is Marco Miniman on drums, Brian Beller on bass, and Guthrie Govan on guitar. And Guthrie is just one of these guys like Paul Gilbert or Buckethead, where his playing is like that shouldn't be possible. And so we opened for them, and after the show, I was like, Guthrie, did you like it? Was it okay? Did it sound all right? Yeah, I was. Yeah, I think I made him very uncomfortable.
It's very cool how music can take you to all kinds of places like that, and all kinds of people like that, and that's really what we try to get through on this show. I don't usually meet people that are how do I say, as successful as yourself.
Yeah.
Definitely not as talented. I think they'll all admit that. But at the very least, someone who's just been in and amongst it, just like you have your whole entire life and your whole entire college. But it's the first time learning about you, having a degree in physics, things like that. If anyone that hasn't heard Vaylor play, they've got to. Like, you please go check it out. I'll definitely share the links. But now that I know it, I can hear it. It's like, man, there's a different kind of science behind this playing. When did you first put that together? I mean, do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
When did you see that they could team up and be magic?
I don't know that I think of it that way.
That's fair. It's go. Yeah, please.
It's to me, it's more like, okay. Growing up, I definitely went through a stage where, because of the Allman Brothers and because of my father, I went through a lot of listening to a lot of, classic rock blues artists, even getting it as obscure as I could, not only in terms of back to the origins and, Son House and Howlin' Wolf and Muddy Waters and Robert Johnson and all of that, but also the stuff that was relatively new and coming out in the 80s and 90s, like on Alligator Records. I got real into Roy Buchanan and Danny Gatton and Little Ed and the Imperials and all of these guys that were playing this kind of new blues. And the problem for me was that I saw myself and my role with the guitar as being such a technician that once I kind of understood how that music was made, it decreasingly stopped holding my interest.
Right.
So from there, it went into Jeff Beck and kind of the entry level fusion stuff, and from there it went to Mahavishnu, and from there it went to John Coltrane. And I'm just trying to take in all the information I can, not necessarily because I want to. I want to be able to go on stage and play John Coltrane's sax solo from Giant Steps, but because I want to synthesize it into something that holds my attention, that I think is interesting. But, as I get older, I find that the things that I'm finding are more interesting are not necessarily the more difficult things, but trying to make something that has that intersection, that Venn diagram intersection of the stuff that's interesting and technically challenging, but also has a feel and an authenticity to it. And, I guess that's why I've always liked band, I prefer, for example, John McLaughlin to Al Di Meola, because McLaughlin is always feels to me like he's right on the hairy edge of his capabilities. He's always trying to push it just a little bit farther.
Sure.
And you get the idea with Al Di Meola that he's kind of just sitting back and he's looking out, and all of these 30-second notes are flying off his fingers, but it's only occupying about 10% of his brain at the time, right? So
sure,
I would rather have someone that's got more invested in it, you know? And so, yeah, that's where I'm trying to go.
That's where you put yourself. You're pushing and pushing and pushing as hard as you can always.
Make all the mistakes, chump it on stage as much as possible. Don't play it safe, you know. That's where I'm at. So, yeah.
And it's so it works. It works for me. It works for your demo. It works for people who know and love that music.
Yeah.
It's not everyone's flavor.
No. And that was the idea. In fact, when I called Eric, when Colonel Bruce gave me Eric's number and said, call this guy, his name's Lars, you'll love him. So I call Eric and I say, hi, you don't know me. Colonel Bruce gave me your number. My name's Vaylor Trucks. I want to make ugly music that scares people. And he called me back based on that. And I said, yeah, my vision is we go to a club, we set up, we play, and we scare so many people that they never have us back again.
Well, that's kind of where I was going with that. It's not everyone's flavor. Has that happened? Like, obviously with it first. When was it just like, holy shit, this is not what I thought it was? Yeah. Would you run into anything like that was just like, holy shit? You're not paying you or anything stupid like that?
No, nothing like that. But there was, for example, there's a club here in town called Smith's Old Bar.
Love that place.
It's the worst load-in of any club ever. But
you got to go upstairs.
Not only upstairs, but when you're one of the musicians, you pull into a back alley, and there's a rickety metal staircase that goes up the outside of the building, and that's how you load in. Yeah,
it's on a hill in a corner. Yeah.
Yep. So they offered us a residency every Tuesday night in August. In was it 1999 or 2000? 2000, I think it was. And the first week we had about half capacity, and the second week we had about a third capacity. And by the time we were done with it, there was like 3 people there. And Brooks, as we were loading out the last night, he says, "Well, the next time we play there will be never." But we actually did end up playing there again. But
when did you go back? Like, when was that?
Okay. So in
2000, it takes a while to bounce back.
Well, in 2009, a few things happened. I got married to my wife now, Emily, and what we decided to do is, are you familiar with a guitarist named Mike Keneally?
I'm not. I can't say. I'm sorry.
Mike was part of Frank Zappa's band for the last few years of his touring career. Okay, and he's also an immensely talented progressive composer and performer. He's got a bunch of solo records. But in 2009, on his website, he did something called the My Keneally Tour. And basically, if you pay his fee, then he'll show up and play wherever the fuck you want, in your backyard.
That's great.
And so I talked to Emily and I said, well, here's what we'll do. We'll get married at the courthouse. And then that night we'll go set up and play and have Mike Keneally play with us. And that'll be our reception. So we were able to get Smith's Old Bar to have us that night. So Brian and Beller and Mike Keneally played a set. We played a set, the first Yeti set in 7 years. And then the 5 of us played together. And that recording is actually our album, Go Play, is that night. So,
awesome. Yeah. Awesome. Man, so you guys hadn't played in forever.
Yeah.
And you're playing, that's an album that's crazy. Yeah. Some confidence.
It was fun. It was a good night.
Is that when did you guys pick up from there and start saying, hey, yes, man, I missed this. Let's go back to this? No.
we all definitely missed it, but we all had kids and lives and stuff
Yeah.
that got in the way, right? So we just finally got to a point where we could start devoting some time to it again. And after that year, we played the Wani Festival every year and just a handful of shows in the Southeast every year. Nothing serious, but enough to keep the songwriting going and the music going. Yeah.
And the food in the belly, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
That's why we do this. We can get any extras, nice, but if we can get through that little food in our belly, that's really it. So Wani, it's magical. We'll miss it.
Yeah.
We don't have to get into that. It's crazy, sad, and all that. But would you say that's your I don't know, your home team? Is that where you'd say yours? You know what I mean? Is that your Red Rocks?
Yes.
Wani? Yeah. I mean, you guys have played there.
That's absolutely fair. Yeah. So I played there with my prog trio, Bonobos Convergence. We played there a few times. Played there with Yeti a few times, and I played there once with my dad as part of his band. So.
Insane venue.
Oh yeah, no, I really love it, and it was always fun because it always happened. It was always the closest weekend to my daughter's birthday. So when my daughter
20th, 18th-ish.
Yeah, her birthday is April 14th. So
okay, as I was right around there. Okay.
Yeah, so for her like her third, fourth, and fifth birthdays, we took her to Wani, and she had a great time.
Awesome. You guys go VIP style? Do you guys just go in a tent by the?
We used to camp. We used to, for the first few years, we would camp and then set up in the campground and play at 2 a.m. But as I started getting older and realizing that I don't like being sticky and sweaty all the time, we started getting hotels.
God. Would you say that's your favorite, the best venue you ever played? You got other ones? What would you say is the best one you've ever?
Oh wow!
Maybe best show you've ever been the pleasure of playing, whatever the pro word here is.
I think the one that I'm proudest of is there's a few. Yeah, Wani is definitely right up there. Top 3 for sure. But BB King's in New York in Times Square with the Freight Train Band and having my daughter come up and sing with us. That was fun.
When was that, Vaylor?
2016. Yeah.
Jeez, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Middle of New York, your daughter's singing with you. Crazy.
Yeah. And I found out after the fact that Julian Lennon was there in attendance as well. So
no way.
Yeah.
Another bit of music royalty, huh?
Yeah.
That's insanity.
Yeah, no, I was pretty chuffed about that.
How did that come about? We'll get to number 1 here in a second.
Yeah. That came about because when the Allman Brothers finally dissolved in 2014, my father put together 2 different bands. One was designed to play the sheds, the outdoor venues, kind of the festivals and stuff. And that was most of the members of the touring Allman Brothers band. So himself and JMO and Mark Quinones, Oteil Burbridge. And then they had Jack Pearson, who had played guitar with the Allman Brothers before. And then in addition to those folks, they had Lamar Williams Jr. singing. They had Bruce Katz on keyboards. And they had Pat Burgesson, who was another Nashville cat that played with Jack a lot. That was that band. And they did great. But my dad also wanted to have a group that could play the smaller venues and clubs and stuff just to keep himself working. And that was the Freight Train Band. And that started out with me and him and Barry Oakley's son, Barry Dwayne Oakley, and then Bruce Katz. So that foursome. Later, we added another guitarist, Damon Fowler from Sarasota, great blues guitar player. We added a percussionist, Garrett Dawson. We added actually a third guitarist and singer, Heather Gillis, who is absolutely killing it right now. She's actually playing with Thelma and the Sleaze these days, if you know them. They're a ton of fun. Yeah, so that band, the Freight Train Band, is the one that ended up touring a lot through the Northeast. Playing through Maryland and Connecticut and Massachusetts and New York and all up there. So that band is the one that played at BB King's. So yeah,
awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So what's number one on the list, or what's in that top three?
Man, let me think about this.
That's all right.
The Wakarusa Festival. I don't know if you know that one. It started off in
Arkansas, right?
It's in Arkansas now, but it started out in Kansas.
Okay.
And we played it. My prog trio played it when we were out in Kansas. And the reason why it was important to me is because we played at like 4:30 in the morning, but we played on the same stage that Buckethead had played on that evening, and so I was quite chuffed about that. that was a lot of fun.
You've mentioned Buckethead a couple of times. Is that kind of outside of the family and stuff? Like, would you say Buckethead's up there? Who's the big? Maybe give me a top three there. Huge inspirations. Like who's your top three? Like I kind of. Like I said, play the same stage as them. Like that's awesome. Like that's who you want to follow and maybe who you want to emulate a little bit.
Yeah. So I guess the three biggest influences on my guitar playing over the years, the three that I keep coming back to, one we've talked about already, John McLaughlin. Aside from that, Frank Zappa and Ralph Towner. I don't know if you know Ralph Towner or not. Ralph Towner he plays classical and 12-string guitar. He came up originally with Paul Winter in the Paul Winter Consort.
Wow.
And he's got a band that he's worked with forever called Oregon. And Oregon, for the wind player, the oboist for Oregon is Paul McCandless, who also played with Colonel Bruce. But Ralph Towner, so if John McLaughlin represents intensity, basically putting a lie to the fact. So, growing up, you hear, oh, well, there's the guys who play fast with no soul, and there's the guys that play with soul but no chops. And John McLaughlin says there's no reason why you can't do both.
Right.
And so that's what I get from him. With Frank Zappa, it's about showing that you can express more than just intensity and hate and these aggressive sort of things. You can be humorous. You can create odd musical environments. And Ralph Towner, the thing that he's done for me more than anything else is he is the epitome of quiet intensity. His music is delicate, but he released an album on ECM Records in 1974 called Solstice with three Scandinavian musicians, Eberhard Weber, Jan Christensen, and John Garbarek. And I've owned maybe 9 copies of this album over the years. It's just beautiful. It kills me dead every time.
Just wore it out, just scratched it to shit.
I would either wear it out or give it away, or it's one that just I kept having to refurbish because it's just amazing.
Do you have any other albums like that?
Oh yeah, Blow by Blow and Wired, The Inner Mounting Flame by Mahavishnu. I'm in the process now of so I got all of Zappa's Ryko disc recordings, and when Ryko went out and they started releasing them on Zappa's own label, I've now got 2 copies of many of Zappa's albums because I'm trying to get both editions of them. Oh geez,
there is some shit out.
Yeah, 6 and 12 string guitar by Leo Kottke is a fantastic album. I've gone through a few copies of that. Wow. Geez, I'm trying to think. See, the one thing that complicates things is, like I said, in 1996, I had a fire in my apartment and I lost everything. So I had to replace everything at that point. Yeah.
And so in 1996, you were 26 years old or so?
26,
so
correct.
So this is probably, if a lot of young men can relate, probably when I was like peak, like buying all the albums that I could, like really soaking as much as I could, seeing as much live as I could. So I can only imagine losing now. Granted, I think iPods had just came out around then, so I can only imagine losing my iPod when
Yeah,
I was
no,
26. Like it would have ruined your fucking life for a minute. Like
yeah, no, it did. We didn't have insurance. We lost everything, and I didn't have an iPod at the time, and it
no,
wasn't just stuff, right? We lost pets.
oh shit,
Yeah, we lost photos. We lost original art. So and
yeah, it
instruments.
sucked.
All of my instruments are gone. So yeah, no, it was starting over from zero. Yeah.
And around that point, are you playing? Are you working? Just what's really
No,
going
this
on at you're 26 and you kind of lose all of your shit?
I was songwriting, but I wasn't playing with anyone. This was 2 years before the Yeti Trio happened. Yeah.
Okay. And so the Yeti Trio begins.
Yeah.
Let's go. What happens there? Give me a quick synopsis of the life and times of you becoming kind of where you are now.
Originally, the idea behind the band was no songs, all improvisation. We get up on stage, there's no set list in front of us. Someone counts something off, and we just go for as long as they let us go. And we did that for a while. But what we found that we were doing is we would make recordings of all of our rehearsals and all of our performances. And we would say, hey, you remember that thing you did in this time signature? Do that again and let me try this thing over it. And then through that process, we started building little structures, which we gave names to, right? We gave them names like Chuck Jones or Kangaroo or what is the Spazzy Lamba, just, weird names.
Zero relevance.
And, so for example, Chuck Jones was an animator at Warner Brothers. And so the jam that we based Chuck Jones off of was about 7 minutes long, which is about the same length as a Warner Brothers cartoon. So a little 7-minute masterpiece is Chuck Jones. So that's how we would come up with names for stuff.
How crazy would it be to be in a band with a physicist? That would be insanity. All right. So you guys get together. You finally start writing these little, like you said.
Yeah. And we start touring. We start touring. We're still recording everything just on little digital. You remember the little mini disc digital recorders? We just, Brooks would bring one of those and we would record everything. And we started accumulating this archive of stuff. Toured a lot through the Southeast. We did. This would have been another one from my top 3. We got a chance to play at the Wetlands. The Wetlands Preserve in New York. The Yeti Trio played there. And that was a really good night. We had a ton of fun there. There was even a power outage that night because there was a nor'easter coming through New York that night. But
were you the headliner that night?
No, we were down. No, we were downstairs. Okay. There was a headliner upstairs, but we had the downstairs to ourselves. We didn't have to share the stage with anyone. But it was still, what an honor. Did you ever see the documentary about the Wetlands?
No,
it was fabulous.
I've heard of it, and I think it's still available online, but I've never watched it.
There's a great quote from it because this particular segment they start off with the camera on the occupancy sign that's in the front of the building, saying this facility is designed for 450 people, and then they started interviewing all of the staff. They said, well, how many people would you have on a night? And they would say 750. 700. And then one dude says, well, it depends on who's playing. You can only get about 650 Government Mule fans in here. I thought that was pretty good. Yeah. So we played mostly through the Southeast, but we did make a Northeast tour up to New York, New Jersey, Virginia, and then back down. And that tour was one of the last things that we did before we had to stop playing for a while. In 2000,
really comes down to kids and stuff like nothing really crazy, like no Yoko Onos or anything like that.
No. Brooks had his first kid in 2001. I had my daughter in 2002. Day gigs started to be a thing that kept us from being able to go out as much as we could because at that time, Brooks was actually working for Mars Music, and then Mars Music disbanded, and he ended up getting a job as an engineer with a music distribution company, and that kind of required him to stay closer to Atlanta. So Yeah. So, and also Eric got a job at the Atlanta Institute of Music as one of their drum instructors. So all three of us ended up being tied to the Atlanta area. And so we just had to stop for a while. But now that once we got back together in 2009, we still don't go out much, but we still do try and get to the Southeast as much as we can. Yeah.
So it's incredible. What are you doing now as far as just music goes? Are you still writing? Are you still producing? What are you doing? Where can I hear you and see you as far as like post-COVID?
Right. So here's the thing about that. Like I said before, I got a day job. And so I don't want to take money out of the pockets of actual musicians that need the work. So I made the conscious decision at the beginning of the quarantine times that I wasn't going to put out anything commercial. If you want me to come out to do a benefit or something online, do a streaming set online for a benefit for a cause, I'll do that. But short of that, I've been using this time to songwrite and also to learn a new instrument. I just turned 50, and Eric, for my birthday, got me a bass clarinet, which is an instrument I absolutely love. So I've been taking bass clarinet lessons and learning that. But while that's been going on, I have a studio in my house. Eric has a studio in his backyard. So we've been writing songs together. And these are not going to be Yeti songs. These are going to be shorter, punchier, more composed songs. And we're calling the project Standard Deviators. So
awesome.
We're in the songwriting process now. He'll send me some recordings. I'll add.
Are you guys doing it kind of like this? Like, hey,
yeah, exactly.
And that's cool.
Exactly. He'll make a recording, send it to me. I'll throw it into my studio, add some parts to it, throw it back to him. He'll listen to it and he'll have some feedback, and we'll go back and forth about arranging, songwriting, and all of that stuff. So that's the process where we're at now. Once we have a set of songs that we feel are in their final form, we'll start recording, and then maybe by the end of COVID, we'll be ready to have a CD for release. So that's the plan.
So your finger is just never out of the pie, man. You've always got an eye on it. You're always kind of working on it. It's a passion. It's a hobby, but it's a passion. It's something that it's in your blood, right? I mean,
it's more than just a hobby. I do make not a good portion, but a portion of my living I make from music. This year, obviously, that portion is pretty close to zero, and that was done intentionally. But there hasn't been a year since 1998 in at least. Let's put it this way: enough of my income came from music that I had to declare it on my taxes. So
fair enough, man. Fair enough, hustler. So cool. So now it's a little quick fire just to kind of end it, man. I've had such a pleasure speaking with you, man. It's so awesome.
You as well.
Now we just kind of get to know you a little bit. Most embarrassing thing that you can remember ever doing on stage?
I was the guitarist for a stage production of Man of La Mancha.
This is already embarrassing.
I know. I did a lot of theater. And the reason why I did a lot of theater is because I had the temerity as a guitarist to learn how to read music. And if you can read music and you show up for an audition and they hand you music and you're like, oh, no, I'm a guitarist. I don't read because that detracts from my soul or whatever.
My creativity, and all that
there's the door. But for me, Man of La Mancha, the guitar parts are actually these really involved flamenco parts. And the band is backstage, off stage. You can't see us. And we're getting microphones off the stage and headphones. And I'm playing and I'm playing and I'm playing. And I get to a break in the song and I realize that I'm 2 beats off. I have been wrong the entire song. So that's probably my most embarrassing moment. So
that just speaks, you didn't mean it, but that speaks to your genius. People usually come out here and talk about how they pooped themselves, or things like that. You're like, it's 2 beats off for half of a song. And then I figured it out. So that was pretty embarrassing for that's Vaylor Trucks, ladies and gentlemen. Quick fire off. Name the instruments that you'd say you could play.
Guitar, bass, mandolin, banjo, dulcimer, penny whistle, Chapman stick, analog synthesizer, I'm learning bass clarinet, but I'm not proficient at it yet. I've got some drum chops, but not enough to play professionally. Keyboards, if you can do it one hand at a time, I'm okay with that. Yeah, that's about it.
So you're pushing 12 to 15 instruments. I'll give you a couple that you
Yeah.
may have not named or whatever. That's
Yeah.
insanity. I can't play. I can play a little bit of little four chords on a guitar, and
That's all you need.
on the keyboard. I can do that.
Sure.
And charge. That's basically where I'm at. So the genius, it bleeds through you, bleeds through your family. For people who don't know, you are the cousin of Derek Trucks, who's a pretty famous guy from my area of the country. Have you done anything with him that anyone would know about that we could plug here and people would go, oh, I don't play this? Or do you kind of stay away from that?
No. The thing about Derek is he's been touring relentlessly since about the age of 13. I mean, like 250, 300 days a year, he's gone. He's got a studio in his backyard as well. But, it's a situation where if he's off the road, he's either songwriting and recording with his band or he doesn't want to have anything to do with it.
He's got nothing to do with it, yeah.
Yeah, so, I'm sure that he would be down if I called him and said, hey, can I show up and let's just play for a minute? I'm sure he would, but he'd have to find the time.
Sure.
So, when I see him a couple of times a year when I'm down in Jacksonville, I don't think it's on either one of our minds. We would rather sit back and, watch the Jaguars on TV or listen to music or something rather than try and do something like that.
So you mentioned earlier you did kind of bounce around a lot of Florida for the most part.
Yeah.
A little Nashville. You a Jaguars fan for real, man?
I haven't followed the NFL seriously in a long time, but the family is, I've got much family. Yeah, I've got so much family in Jacksonville that at least totemistically, right, symbolically, they're my team. Yeah,
I'm gonna have a lot of people that listen to this very happy to hear that. All right,
yeah.
we have to root for them.
Yeah,
but they just can't. They can't put anything together lately.
Yeah,
but that's just Jacksonville's spirit, is what it is.
Yeah.
It's hopes and dreams and crushed, and then you move to Atlanta or something like that. So I usually ask people, if not music, then what? But I think our question here is you'd be you've been in the physics and science and all that. That's kind of where you would go with it, yeah.
I am definitely a science nerd. I am definitely someone who whenever daily I am up on science. I am listening to science podcasts. I'm reading about it. I like to stay plugged in. A couple of times a year I think to myself, I should take a refresher course in calculus of two variables or something because I haven't done it in a while. That's just where I'm at. It makes me happy. I love the feeling of figuring something out. I love the feeling of having something that when you first look at it, looks like it's impenetrable and you can pull it apart and come to its conclusion that actually is elegant and works. I love doing stuff like that. So, yeah.
You should just throw the guitar away and just change the world that way, man. Jesus. It's interesting as hell. So the last two questions are sometimes the same answer is the best piece of advice you ever got and the best advice you could give. And typically, I mean, like for any kind of fan or aspiring musician or something like that that's out there.
Best piece of advice that I ever got is take responsibility for your sound. A lot of times, especially in the jam community, someone will show up and play through someone else's gear or not warm up or, they'll come out and they'll chump it on stage and they'll think, and I've had this happen to me too. It's because I wasn't getting the tone I wanted or I wasn't able to hear myself. If you're on stage and you're playing something, speak up, say something. I can't hear you. I can't hear myself. I need more of this. Take responsibility for your sound. And as far as advice that I could give to someone else, practice with a metronome. And not only practice with a metronome, if you're not a drummer, if you're a guitarist or any other kind of instrument, it doesn't matter. if you're not a drummer, get yourself a pair of sticks and a practice pad, learn a few rudiments, and learn a few grooves. And this is not just for helping your timekeeping, but it's because when you're talking with the drummer, they don't give a shit what key you're in. They don't give a shit. They don't give a shit what scale you're playing over. They're saying, if you turn around and say, hey, can you do that again? And they say, what? And you say, that thing we did in B minor, doesn't mean anything. But if you say, those cross fives that we hit on a few minutes ago, then he knows what you're talking about. So being able to understand the rhythmic language as well as the harmonic language is very important. So.
Well, we all know how crazy those drummers can be. Vaylor, thank you so much, my friend. This has been a pleasure. I'm sorry that I had COVID and I wasn't as lit as I usually am.
I'm so sorry. I hope you're well. I hope you.
I hope I survive. That's what you were gonna say. Yeah. You were gonna say, "I hope I survive," and then you got nice about it. No, I hope I survive too. This was a pleasure, man.
Pleasure's mine.
VaylorTrucks.com, theYetiTrio.com, Vaylor on all the social. That's VAYLOR. MickMotherwell.com. I'm available on YouTube, Spotify, Google, all that shit. Come find me. Vaylor, thanks so much, man. Guys, go check him out. If you don't, it's your loss. Vaylor, thanks one more time, brother. Have a great night, my friend.
My pleasure. Wow. Thank you so much.